Picture this. You're scrolling through Airbnb, dreaming of the perfect vacation. A charming cabin tucked away in the mountains, a sleek urban loft with skyline views, or a cozy seaside cottage promising serenity. The reviews are flawless, the photos are breathtaking, and you hit book now with a smile. But what happens when the place you thought was your safe haven becomes a living nightmare? Tonight, we're diving deep into 5 disturbing true Airbnb horror stories that will make you question every listing you've ever clicked. These aren't urban legends or campfire tales. These are real experiences from real people who faced terror, betrayal, and the unexplainable in places they trusted. So grab a blanket, double check your locks, and maybe keep the lights on, because these stories will haunt you long after the video ends. Hey horror fam, welcome back to Shadows of Terror, where we unearth the darkest, most spine-chilling stories from every corner of the globe. Tonight, we're ripping the curtain off Airbnb nightmares that prove the scariest things aren't always in haunted mansions. They're in the rentals we book with a single click. Before we dive into the terror, hit that like button if you're ready to lose sleep, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a creepy tale. Oh, and if you're watching alone, maybe check behind you first. Let's get into our first story, but fair warning. This one will crawl under your skin and stay there. Story 1. The Watcher in the Woods. Our first story takes us to the wilds of Washington state, where a young couple, Sarah and Ethan, booked a romantic Airbnb cabin to celebrate their third anniversary. The listing promised solitude, stunning forest views, and a hot tub under the stars. Everything they needed for a perfect weekend. But what they found wasn't romance. It was a chilling realization that they were never truly alone. Sarah and Ethan rolled up to the cabin just after sunset, exhausted from a 6-hour drive. The place was straight out of a postcard, rustic charm with modern touches, like a smart TV and a fully stocked kitchen. They unpacked, popped open a bottle of wine, and settled in for a cozy night. But as Sarah glanced out the massive bay window overlooking the forest, she froze. Deep in the trees, a faint light blinked, like a flashlight being switched off the moment she noticed it. Ethan, ever the rational one, laughed it off, saying it was probably a deer's eyes catching the porch light. But Sarah's gut screamed otherwise. She felt watched. That night, they tried to shake the unease. They fired up a rom-com on the TV, but the screen kept glitching, cutting to static every few minutes. Sarah joked about the cabin being haunted, but Ethan wasn't laughing anymore. Around 1 a.m., they heard it, a slow, deliberate tap, tap, tap on the bay window. Not a branch, not an animal, just a rhythmic, intentional sound. Ethan grabbed a flashlight and a fireplace poker, stepping onto the porch to investigate. The forest was dead silent. No wind, no critters, just an oppressive stillness. He swept the light across the trees, seeing nothing, until he turned back to the window. Scratched into the glass, so faint it was almost invisible, were the words, "I see you." Panic hit like a tidal wave. Sarah and Ethan bolted inside, locking every door and window. They called the host, leaving a frantic voicemail, but got no answer. Desperate, they searched the cabin for answers. In the bedroom, Sarah noticed a small, dusty attic hatch in the ceiling, barely noticeable behind a light fixture. Ethan, against her tearful protests, climbed up with a kitchen knife in hand. What he found turned their fear into full-blown terror. A sleeping bag, crumpled energy bar wrappers, a half-empty water bottle, and a tattered notebook. Inside the notebook were pages of handwritten logs, dates, times, and chilling details like couple arrives 8:47 p.m., woman showers 9:15 p.m., and man checks porch 1:03 a.m. Their every move documented since they stepped foot in the cabin. The logs didn't stop there. Flipping back, Ethan found entries from weeks earlier describing other guests. Solo traveler, reads by fire. Family with dog, kid cries at night. Someone had been living in the attic, watching guest after guest, and the couple had no idea how long this had been going on. They grabbed their bags, abandoning half their stuff, and peeled out of the driveway, calling 911 as they sped towards civilization. Police searched the cabin the next day, finding fresh footprints leading from the attic to a hidden trail deep in the woods. The notebook's handwriting didn't match the host's, and forensic analysis suggested it belonged to an unknown squatter. The host swore they knew nothing, claiming the cabin was secure, but the listing vanished from Airbnb within days. Sarah and Ethan haven't booked a rental since, and they still triple-check every lock before bed, haunted by the thought of those unseen eyes in the dark. Imagine realizing someone's been living in your rental, documenting your every move. That's the kind of horror that makes you question every private listing out there. If this story's got you rattled, drop a comment with your reaction, and let's see if you're brave enough for our next tale. It's about to get even creepier. Story 2. The Room That Wasn't Listed. Next, we're heading to the Windy City, where a solo traveler named Mia booked a trendy Airbnb loft for a weekend of art galleries and deep dish pizza. The listing screamed modern luxury, open-plan design, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a prime downtown location. But Mia stumbled onto something the listing conveniently left out, a hidden room with a secret that turned her dream trip into a waking nightmare. Mia was over the moon when she arrived. The loft was Instagram-worthy, with exposed brick walls, a smart speaker playing chill lo-fi beats, and a fridge stocked with complimentary sparkling water. She unpacked, snapped some selfies by the windows, and planned her weekend itinerary. But as she explored the apartment, she noticed something off, a door in the hallway, tucked behind a decorative plant, that wasn't in any of the listing photos. It had a digital keypad lock, the kind you'd see on a safe. Curious, she messaged the host, asking about it. The reply came fast, "Just storage. Please don't try to open it. Enjoy your stay." Mia shrugged it off, but the door nagged at her. Why lock a storage closet so securely? That night, Mia couldn't sleep. The city's hum was soothing, but around 2 a.m., she heard something else. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from behind the locked door. At first, she thought it was her imagination, or maybe pipes in the old building. But the sounds grew louder, more distinct, pacing, back and forth, like someone was trapped inside. Her heart pounded as she texted the host again, but this time, no reply. She tried Airbnb's support line, but the loft's spotty Wi-Fi kept dropping the call. Desperate for answers, Mia searched the apartment, hoping to find a clue. Under the coffee table, taped to the underside, was a sticky note with a 4-digit code, 7391. Her hands trembled as she approached the door. Torn between fear and curiosity, against every instinct screaming to run, she punched in the code. The keypad beeped green and the lock clicked open. The room was small, windowless, and reeked of stale air. Dust coated everything, but certain items looked disturbingly recent. A steaming coffee cup on a rickety table, a smartphone charging on the mattress, and a notebook with fresh ink. Mia's blood ran cold as she flipped through the notebook, finding sketches of the loft's layout and notes about guests, hair color, clothing, even sleep schedules. The last page had her name, Mia, circled in red, with the words, "Arrived 6:42 p.m." written beside it. As she backed away, she noticed deep scratches on the inside of the door, like someone had clawed at it in desperation. Then, from the shadows, came a low, guttural whisper, "Mia." Mia barricaded the door with a chair, grabbed her bag, and spent the night huddled in the bathroom, clutching a kitchen knife. At dawn, she fled to a hotel and called the police. Officers searched the loft, but found no one inside the room, just the coffee cup, now cold, and the notebook, which they took as evidence. The host claimed the room was just storage and had no explanation for the items or the sketches. Mia dug deeper online, finding Reddit threads and forums where other guests at the same loft reported hearing footsteps, feeling watched, or seeing the keypad light blink at night. Airbnb refunded her stay and suspended the listing, but it was quietly reinstated months later under a new host profile. Mia now travels with a portable door lock and warns others to always check for hidden spaces in rentals. A secret room with your name in a notebook? That's the stuff of nightmares. What do you think was behind that door? Drop your theories yourselves with our next story, which takes a paranormal turn that'll leave you questioning reality itself. Story 3. The Ghost in the Guest House. Our third story whisks us to the Cotswolds in England, where a family of 4 booked a picturesque Airbnb guest house for a summer escape. The listing promised a tranquil retreat steeped in history, perfect for making memories. But the Thompsons soon learned that history isn't always charming. Sometimes it lingers, watches, and refuses to let go. Mark and Lisa Thompson, along with their kids, Ollie, 12, and Grace, 7, were thrilled for their week-long stay. The guest house was a dream. Creaky oak floors, a wood-burning fireplace, and a garden bursting with roses. The kids ran through the rooms, claiming their beds, while Mark and Lisa unpacked, savoring the quiet after London's chaos. But that first night, the peace shattered. Grace woke up screaming, tears streaming down her face, babbling about a sad lady in a white dress standing at the foot of her bed, staring with empty eyes. Lisa rushed in, soothing her, chalking it up to a vivid nightmare from the long drive. But Grace was adamant. The lady was real, with long, black hair and cold, pale hands. The next morning, Grace was quieter than usual, drawing pictures of a woman in a flowing dress. Meanwhile, strange things started happening. A teacup slid across the kitchen table, stopping just before the edge. A heavy book tumbled off a shelf in broad daylight, landing open to a page about grief. Mark, a staunch skeptic, blamed the kids' roughhousing. But even he was rattled when their Polaroid camera, brought for fun family photos, spat out a picture of the living room with a blurry, humanoid shape in the corner where no one had been standing. Lisa messaged the host, asking if the house had any history. The reply was vague. "It's an old place, a bit quirky but harmless." Curiosity got the better of Ollie, who explored the attic while his parents cooked dinner. Tucked under a floorboard, he found a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1876, detailing a woman named Eliza, who died in the guest house after being locked inside by her abusive husband. The article described her as trapped in eternal sorrow. The family researched online using the village's weak Wi-Fi and found local legends about the house being haunted by Eliza's spirit, with sightings dating back decades. Desperate for answers, Lisa proposed a seance, half joking but hoping to calm Grace's fears. They lit candles, held hands, and asked if anyone was there. The room grew icy, the candles flickered, and Grace whispered, "She's here." A mirror on the wall cracked with a deafening snap, and the family screamed as a cold wind tore through the room. The Thompsons packed and fled at sunrise, leaving clothes and toys behind. They returned with the host later to retrieve their things, but the newspaper clipping was gone, and the Polaroid photo was blank, as if erased. Locals later confirmed the house's haunted reputation, with other guests reporting cold spots, whispers, and sightings of a woman in white. Airbnb offered a partial refund, dismissing the paranormal claims, but the listing was removed after mounting complaints. The Thompsons swear Eliza's presence followed them home. Grace still draws her, and Lisa wakes to the sound of soft crying some nights. A ghost that doesn't just haunt the house, but follows you? That's next level terrifying. If you've ever stayed somewhere with a paranormal vibe, share your story in the comments. We're halfway through, but the scares are far from over. Our next story is a chilling reminder to always check your Airbnb for hidden cameras. Story 4. The Host Who Never Left. Our fourth story lands us in a quiet suburb outside Austin, where a group of friends booked a spacious Airbnb for a bachelorette weekend, filled with wine, laughter, and celebration. The house was a modern gem, but the host's overly attentive behavior masked a sinister obsession that turned their party into a fight to escape. Jenna and her 5 best friends, Rachel, Sophie, Lauren, Emma, and Claire, were pumped for a weekend of bachelorette fun. The host, Greg, a friendly guy in his 40s, greeted them with a tour, pointing out the surround sound system and even leaving a tray of homemade cookies. But his hospitality felt off. He texted hourly, asking if they needed more towels, if the AC was cool enough, or if they wanted restaurant recommendations. By day 2, the group was annoyed, politely asking him to ease up. That night, Rachel, a tech-savvy graphic designer, noticed a tiny blinking light in the living room corner. She climbed onto a chair and found a hidden Wi-Fi camera, its lens pointed directly at the couch where they'd been lounging. The discovery flipped their mood from irritated to horrified. They searched the house, finding cameras in every major room, bedrooms, bathrooms, even the hot tub deck. Some were disguised as smoke detectors or USB chargers. Furious, Jenna called Greg, who claimed the cameras were for security and mentioned in the listing's fine print. But the group checked every word of the listing, nothing about cameras. Sophie, a lawyer, insisted they leave. But first, they explored the basement, hoping to find the camera's hub. Behind a locked door, which Emma picked with a hairpin, they found a control room. Monitors displaying live feeds from every camera, a chair still warm, and a wall plastered with photos of guests, some candid, some clearly taken from the feeds. Worst of all, they found Polaroids of their own group, snapped during private moments, like Jenna changing or Claire asleep. The women called 911, barricading themselves in a bedroom until police arrived. Officers arrested Greg, uncovering a hard drive with years of footage from unsuspecting guests. A journal detailed his obsession with certain renters, including Jenna, with entries like, "She's the one I've been waiting for." The house was shut down as an Airbnb, and Greg faced charges for invasion of privacy and stalking. Airbnb issued a public apology, refunded the stay, and claimed they were reviewing their vetting process. But the listing had operated for years without red flags. The women now advocate for stricter rental regulations, haunted by the knowledge that their private moments were stolen. Hidden cameras recording your every move? That's a betrayal that cuts deep. Have you ever found something shady in a rental? Share in the comments and brace yourself. Our final story is the most unsettling yet, with a house that seems to have a mind of its own. Story 5. The House That Knew Too Much. Our final story takes us to the desolate deserts of New Mexico, where a writer named Alex booked a remote Airbnb to finish his debut novel. The listing promised uninterrupted solitude and inspiration, perfect for a creative retreat. But the house wasn't just a backdrop. It seemed alive, aware, and disturbingly fixated on Alex's deepest secrets. Alex craved silence to meet his publisher's deadline, and this Airbnb was perfect. No neighbors, no cell service, just him and the desert. The house was simple but striking, with clay walls and panoramic windows showcasing endless dunes. For the first day, he wrote nonstop, inspired by the stark beauty. But on the second night, his laptop started acting possessed. He'd type a paragraph, and new sentences would appear. Personal details, like the name of his childhood imaginary friend or a regret he'd buried years ago. He ran antivirus scans, assuming a hack, but the system was clean. Then, as he lay in bed, he found a handwritten note under his pillow. "You can't hide from me." The handwriting wasn't his. Alex's fears spiked. He tore the house apart, finding symbols, spirals, and jagged lines, carved into hidden spots, behind the fridge, under the bed, inside a closet. Using a faint Wi-Fi signal, he researched the property, uncovering local lore about the land being a thin place where ancient rituals blurred the line between worlds. The house had a history of guests vanishing, their belongings left behind. The real terror came when Alex noticed his novel, stored only on his laptop, being edited by an unknown user. Entire chapters were rewritten, weaving in secrets he'd never shared, like a betrayal from his past. One night, he woke to his laptop glowing, displaying a live video of himself sleeping, filmed from directly above his bed. No camera was in the room. Alex fled at dawn, abandoning his laptop and manuscript. He drove to the nearest town, calling the host, who sounded bewildered, insisting the house was just old and prone to quirks. Police escorted Alex back to retrieve his things, but the symbols were gone, and his laptop was wiped, the novel erased. Locals whispered about the house feeding on guests' fears, twisting their minds. Airbnb removed the listing after similar complaints, but Alex still receives emails from an unknown sender, snippets of his lost novel, laced with taunts like, "I'm still here." He's abandoned writing, convinced the house, or something in it, claimed his story and part of his soul. A house that knows your darkest secrets and writes them into your work? That's a horror I can't shake. Which of these stories hit you hardest? Drop it in the comments. And if you've got your own Airbnb nightmare, I need to hear it. And that's it, horror fam. 5 true Airbnb stories that prove danger can lurk behind the most inviting listings. If these tales gave you goosebumps, smash that like button and subscribe with notifications on for weekly dives into the terrifying unknown. Want more? Join our Patreon for exclusive bonus stories and behind-the-scenes chills. or grab some spooky merch from our store, links below. Before you go, tell me, would you still book an Airbnb after this? Comment your thoughts, and if you're feeling brave, share your own creepy rental stories. I'll see you next week. Unless something's already watching you, stay spooky.